We're gonna run a Halloween homebrew that I've created probably about a year ago, a little bit more, I think. Um, yeah, something like that. It's been playtested a lot. It should be fairly balanced. There is an extended collection for the script as well, but we're gonna run the very simple first edition that I came up with, and we're gonna quickly go over everything. Then we're gonna have a little bit of a break, and after that, we're gonna get into the first game. I'm saying the first game because we might do a second game, depending on how interested everybody is in seeing the second one, or playing in the second one, I should say. Well, obviously, so I'm using a tool for this called Bloodstar, which you can just, I think it's just bloodstar.xyz or Z, whichever you prefer. And yeah, you can just create an account and then create a homebrew script. It's fairly simple to use, and I've got everything done here. We've got a little bit of an intro text, which I'm going to read out, because why not? As autumn begins in Ravenswood Bluff, the streets fill with orange leaves and the days become shorter. The first jack-o'-lanterns begin to decorate I can't speak. Decorate sills as well as fences and porches. Just a few days before Halloween, kids begin to prepare their costumes and lanterns, when all of a sudden there is a blood-curdling scream to be heard. As all of town gathers in front of the storyteller's hut, they see that they have been slaughtered beyond recognition, and on their front door, written in blood, it says, "Not just a story anymore. A murdering being is stalking Ravenswood Bluff." So, yeah, just a little bit of flavor text, nothing special. Uh, the script, by the way, is called Halloween in Ravenswood Bluff, which is what we're going to have today. A little bit of a short summary of the script. On this script, players usually don't just die at night. They need to become scared first. We'll get to what scared means. But scared players can also die from being nominated. Good players will need to figure out who becomes scared quickly before too many of them do, while evil will want to either spread as much fear as possible or focus down single players to have their kills be more precise. So we're gonna get to a little bit of fabled here, which is the scared mechanic, which was basically just the thing I came up with when I think I was on holiday at the time, and I just kind of liked the effect. I thought about it, and it went through a little bit of work. Basically, there's the idea here. I'm just going to read out the text first. Each night, asterisk, a scared player dies. Then, if no player was executed yesterday, another player might die. Scared players might die when nominated. When 3 or fewer players are alive, scared players can't die from being nominated. So basically, the very original idea for this was basically you're scared. So if you're scared, you're easily frightened. And if somebody accuses you, all of a sudden, you might just have a heart attack and die. That was basically the idea of scared. It started out just being that you can die from nomination. Then, but the demons it kind of made sense that only the scared players die at night, with a few exceptions. So I've kind of replaced the demons killing by themselves with a scared player dies. So it's basically like a limited little monster, whereas I decide who dies at night. Um, yeah, we'll see how exactly this works in the game. Usually, yeah, it's fairly simple. And the nomination thing is it's basically like a reverse witch, I guess. Um, yeah, except that they only might die. Also, I'm getting messages on Discord. I'm just gonna put myself to do not disturb so you don't get the the ping sound every single time. Yeah, this is gonna be what's gonna be the killing. And that's also because obviously all the effects, or I mean, I guess madness doesn't have a like counter word in Blood and Clocktower, but you have to poisoned, you're healthy, to drunk, you're sober. The opposite of scared would be calm, which I've used a little bit because it's easier to say calm than to say not scared. So yeah, that's the scared mechanic. By the way, if anyone ever has any questions in chat, ask them away. This is a completely new script for probably almost everyone watching, so it might not be super easy to get behind everything. I'm not going to go over the examples and everything because that would probably take too long. Just going to go straight ahead. So let's start with the townsfolk. We've got exactly one you start knowing role with which is the gifted child. You start knowing which players are scared or that none are. So basically, the gifted child wakes up on night 1. I tell them precisely which players are scared. Second. Right, sorry. So yeah, the gifted child learns precisely what players are scared, if there are any. Because sometimes there are most demons act on night 1. There is, I believe, exactly one who doesn't. So there will be some scared players on night 1. There's also some other sources of scared on night 1. So we'll get to that. But yeah, this is the only start knowing role. It's pretty good. Then we have the psych nurse. So each night choose 2 living players, not yourself. Learn how many of them are scared. It's kind of similar to like a chambermaid, except you learn about who's scared instead of learning about who woke or not. It's fairly simple. You just learn who's scared. Obviously, this can help you determine who might be evil or not, because scared players are usually not evil, but doesn't mean they like scared players. Evil players can still be scared, but they might not be. Then we've got the trick-or-treater, which is, I guess, kind of similar to the sailor. The wording is a little bit complicated here, but I try to make it as clear as possible. Each night, choose a player. If they are evil, you are drunk until dusk. If you are calm, you can't die. You might survive execution. So basically, to break this down, it's basically the trick-or-treater chooses a player. Either they choose a good player, in which case nothing happens, or they choose an evil player, in which case they become drunk. If they are drunk, obviously they can die. So if they are executed, they will just die. If they are neither drunk nor scared, they cannot die. That means if they are not calm, because of the last part of their ability, you might survive execution. I can't. There we go. You might survive execution. That goes all the time, except when they're drunk. So that means if they are scared, I get to decide if they die or not to execution. Yeah, that's the trick-or-treater. It's kind of similar to the sailor in a way. It requires you to execute the trick-or-treater to get any information, I guess. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It can also, some demons get to direct their kills, so it could also like prevent one of those. It's also interesting. The therapist. Each night choose a player, they become calm. Very simple. You choose a player. If they were scared before, they become calm. That's it. It's basically a monk. And we've got the caretaker. Each night, also, I should probably point out the therapist. Yes, the therapist can choose themselves. That way they will just stay alive forever. Obviously, you might want to protect other people, but you get to decide. You can protect yourself, keep yourself alive, or you can protect other people. It's up to you. Then we've got the caretaker. Each night, asterisk, learn how many alive good players are scared. Again, fairly straightforward. You just learn about how many people are scared. We just count them up, and then we tell the caretaker a number, any number, that goes. Then we've got the Scarecrow, which is a little bit similar to the Psych Nurse, but no, not the Psych Nurse, sorry. What was the other one? Caretaker, right? No, Therapist. My bad. I get my own characters confused. So the Scarecrow is a passive character. Each night, asterisk, if you are not scared, an alive scared player becomes calm. That means if you're not scared, we as the ST will choose a player to become calm. It's fairly simple. We can always use this to kind of balance things out, keep the good player, the strong characters alive if evil is winning, or kill the or keep the less useful ones alive if they are if evil's losing. So yeah, Scarecrow, pretty good. Obviously, you'll want to make sure you don't become scared, because otherwise your ability will no longer function. And then we've got the Camper. Each night, asterisk, if you're scared, learn an in-play character. Otherwise, learn an out-of-play character. Again, I mean, I guess this is kind of a little bit more of a complicated character, right? From everything there will be more complicated ones, don't worry. So each night we will visit the camper, and if they're scared, we're going to tell them an in-play character. If they're not scared, we will give them an out-of-play character. Then the camper can go backwards basically and see like, oh, when was I scared? Is this character in play or not? We can give them demon bluffs to make them think, oh, I must have been scared because this person is claiming to be the Scarecrow, and obviously that's in play. So yeah, that's the camper. The Jock. Each night, asterisk, learn if the player you nominated is evil. If you're scared, they might register as evil to you. So basically, the Jock nominates someone, then they learn if that player is evil. However, if the Jock is is scared, then the Jock might learn evil, even if the person they nominated was good. They can, however, not learn good if the player is evil, unless they are drunk somehow. So if they learn good, they can almost always assume that the player they nominated is good. Obviously, you might have guessed, the Jock's basically supposed to play into the scared mechanic, whereas you definitely want to nominate someone, but you need to be careful, because if you nominate a scared player, they might just die, and that can be a problem. Then we've got the Sacrifice. Once per game at night, you may choose to kill yourself to calm all players. So obviously this is more useful later on in the game. If you use your ability, everybody becomes calm. You die, but everybody else becomes calm. It's fairly straightforward. It's very, very useful to make sure nobody's scared anymore. You can then go ahead and tell a camper, for example, oh, you must be calm because I chose to kill myself. That's very, very useful. And then we've got the Overseer. Once per game, publicly choose up to 3 players. If more than one is evil, you become scared. That night, you learn how many of them were evil. So the Overseer chooses 3 players publicly, similar to how the Juggler would do stuff. If more than one of those chosen players is evil, the Overseer immediately becomes scared, which could be dangerous for them, obviously, since they could be nominated afterwards and just die before they get any information. Then they obviously have to kind of guess, oh, was I scared before, or did this make me scared? What's going on? But however, if they do survive, they get to learn how many of their chosen players were evil. Most players I've played this with have just used it on day 1. You can keep it, you don't have to. You can also just choose one person if you want. If you're scared of becoming scared, choose one person, you're fine. And then you learn if they're evil or not. Yeah, you can absolutely just wait. You could, if you wanted to, you could have yourself get nominated to make sure that you don't die, then use your ability, and that way you basically can't, at least you can't die from being scared during the day. You can still die in the night, of course. The Officer is kind of like a tea lady. Your 2 alive good neighbors can't become scared. So if your neighbors would become scared, they wouldn't. It's very simple. You're protecting your neighbors. You yourself can become scared, but your 2 neighbors, they can't. Very simple, protective role. Final girl. Every horror movie needs a final girl. The final girl is a pretty scary character for the evil team. If you are the only good player alive, your team wins. You can't become scared if there is only one evil player alive. You have no, sorry, if there is only one evil player alive, you have no ability. Hey, Kate, thanks for the sub. I appreciate it. Right as we're talking about the final girl, Kate comes along. Right, so obviously this is kind of this gives good an alternative win condition. Um, but we'll get to a minion later that might make the final girl very very scared, and we'll get to that. However, final girl, fairly simple. If you're the only good player left alive, you just immediately win. You can't become scared, which is kind of similar to how the Mayak might not die at night. So you might become a little bit suspicious. Like, why is this person not becoming scared? Are they just demon? What's going on here? But yeah, you are probably still gonna want to hide, as we'll get to later. Then we've got a little bit of more text on the boomstick. The boomstick says if you nominate an alive minion, that minion's alive good neighbors become calm. But if you nominate a good player, they become scared. The first time you nominate an alive player, if the nominee is not the demon, they die. Zombies register as minions to you. So this one is a bit much. Basically, there are two parts to this ability. The first one is if you nominate an alive minion, that minion's alive good neighbors become calm. You can get rid of some scared that way, as long as you figure out who the minions are. You can nominate them again, and so on. Obviously, at some point they might die, and the minion you nominate has to be alive for this to work. So yeah, we'll see about that. Counterproduct to that, I guess, is if you nominate a good player, though, they will just immediately become scared. I believe I've run it in the past that they can also just immediately die from that. What the fuck was that sound? Oh, somebody started an activity, I guess. Is that it? No. I don't know. That was a weird sound. I don't know what that was. So yeah. Then the second part of their ability is the first time you nominate an alive player, if the nominee is not the demon, they die. Basically, similar to the golem, you nominate someone, they die unless they are the demon. However, the zombie, which we'll get to, registers as the minion, so they would still be killed through this ability. And they would also make their neighbors become not scared. The boomstick is very, very powerful. I've nerfed it several times. It's still fairly powerful. It's very confirmable. So yeah, it's difficult for evil to bluff unless they know who's scared, and then they can nominate someone who's scared and hope that DST kills them. So yeah, there's an interesting character, to say the least. Then we get to the outsiders. The first one is the Naysayer. You start knowing a demon. If you are mad about being the Naysayer or any other demon being in play, you might be executed. It used to be that the Naysayer learns an out-of-play demon. At this point, it's just you start knowing a demon. It could be the in-play demon, could also be a different one. And you need to basically say, it's gotta be this demon. There's no other way. It couldn't be, you can see the names here on the side. It can't be the Dreamstalker, it can't be Bloody Mary, it has to be the Mask. There's no way it's anything else. Otherwise, you might be executed. I changed it from being an out-of-play demon because people started using the Madness Execution to be confirmed and then have players know that a specific demon is not in play. However, the ability would still function when they were dead, so they could trigger executions again and again, but they would just out at day one, get executed, and basically confirm a demon that's not in play, which is not super helpful. I'm also thinking about changing it to have the Naysayer just choose a demon at the start of the game. So there's no metaing from the storyteller or anything. Alright. The Abomination. Each night, if at least one of your living neighbors is good, one of them becomes scared. If you die during the day, you keep this ability. The Abomination scares their neighbors, basically. They can only scare good neighbors, and if both of their neighbors are evil, they're just not gonna have an effect. If the abomination dies during the day, so for example they are executed, or they get killed by the boomstick, or they die because they were scared and were nominated, then they will keep their ability, which will just keep on making their neighbors scared as long as one of them is good. Also, this one confused a couple of people before. The one of them becomes scared. Obviously, that only means that the good players would become scared. So if one neighbor is good, one is evil, the good neighbor will always become scared in every situation. So yeah, that's the abomination for you. The coward, very simple. While scared, you're evil. So if you become scared, you get told that you're evil. If you stop being scared, for example, because the boomstick nominated your actually the boomstick wouldn't trigger the coward. If the scarecrow made you non-scared or the therapist picked you at night, then you become good again. It's basically similar to the goon, except you don't make people drunk when they choose you. It's very simple, very straightforward. The coward. And then we've got the boyfriend. The first time you become scared, one of your alive townsfolk neighbors becomes drunk. If you die during the day, the final girl dies if in play. Again, two parts to their ability. The boyfriend, if they become scared, one of their townsfolk neighbors becomes drunk permanently. Unless, of course, the boyfriend dies. As soon as they die, this drunkenness is gone. However, if there is a final girl in play and the boyfriend is killed during the day, the final girl dies immediately as well. So this is a good way for the evil team to get rid of the final girl, which is just very scary for them. Obviously, if there's no final girl in play, nothing's gonna happen if they get killed. But the boyfriend just might not know if there's a final girl in play or not. So that's gonna be that's always difficult to figure that out, because as I said, the final girl will usually try to hide. We'll get to why. Then we get to the minions. The Fanatic. Each night, asterisk, choose a player, they become scared. Once per game, you may choose for them to become scared, even if for some reason they couldn't. So basically, they just turn someone scared, starting from night 2, and once per game they get to make them scared, even if they couldn't. For example, because they are protected by the officer, or if they're the final girl, or any other reason. I think that's the only two reasons, but if there were any other reasons why they wouldn't, they will still become scared. It's basically similar to the assassin, except they get to make someone scared every night anyway, which obviously it's not a big deal, because only one scared player dies, usually, unless there was no execution, in which case two scared players die, or might die. So yeah, it's not it's not an each night kill, basically, even though that might seem like that. Then we get to the reason why the final girl might want to hide. The ex-boyfriend. Each night, asterisk. If the final girl is dead, choose a player, they become scared. Once per game, publicly choosing a live player. If you choose the final girl, your team wins. So the ex-boyfriend and the damsel, I'm saying damsel, the final girl, obviously I wanted to say, is similar to the damsel and minion relationship, I guess. So if the ex-boyfriend is in play, there's always going to be the final girl in play. The ex-boyfriend kind of wants to search for the final girl, because if they figure out who the final girl is, they can pick them, and they just immediately win. It's similar to how minions would try to guess the damsel, except it's only the ex-boyfriend who can choose. It used to be that that they could also pick a dead player, and they would not gain the benefit from the final girl being dead. But that did seem a little bit unbalanced. It's very difficult for a player to hide even when you're dead. So at this point, it's if the final girl happens to die before the ex-boyfriend gets to make their guess, then they get to make a player scared every night. Which again, it's not like a hugely powerful thing, but it can very help the evil team. Because obviously that will increase the range of people we can kill as the storyteller. Moving on, we've got the Frat Boy. Once per game at night, you may choose to poison all non-scared townsfolk players until dusk. Very simple. They use their ability, all players who are not scared, all players who are calm basically, become scared, sorry, not become scared, become poisoned for one night. And yeah, that's basically it. You might want to use it early to poison as many people as possible, but you might also want to wait, maybe to make sure you get the final girl, figure out who the final girl is, and then scare them while they're poisoned. Or because you know the demon, some information roll is going to pick the demon, or there's plenty of reasons why you might want to hold on to it, but it's always up to the Frat Boy when they want to use it. Last minion, the babysitter. I'm trying to get through these a little bit quicker now because we're already 10 minutes into when the game should have started. I didn't anticipate this for this to take as long as it currently does. The babysitter. On your first night, choose a good player. They are poisoned but cannot die. Once per game at night, you may choose a different good player. They are poisoned but cannot die, but your previously chosen player becomes healthy and can die. If there are 5 or fewer players alive, you lose this ability. Now, there is a specific reason why this character has been included, and we'll get to why. It's a specific demon. And basically, this is to frame that person as the demon. Obviously, you're also going to poison the player, and they will receive misinformation, or their ability will not function, for whatever reason. If the babysitter realizes, oh, I've actually chosen a very bad player for this, like I've chosen the naysayer or the coward who we want to turn evil or something like that, then they can switch once per game just to make sure. It's basically like the leech. If they realize, oh fuck, I leech hosted the virgin or whatever, and it's gonna become super obvious that the virgin is just the leech hosted player. So it's basically they get to switch their host once per game. However, to make sure that the babysitter doesn't just put it on the demon and make sure they win, the babysitter loses this ability if there are 5 or fewer people alive. So the good team can actually kill the demon. Otherwise, this would just be insane. Then we get to the demons, the special part of this. Obviously, all of these demons are a reference in any way. Most of these are going to be pretty obvious. The Dreamstalker. You can guess what that is. Each night, learn which alive players are scared. Then choose 2 players they become scared. Scared good players always die when nominated by a good player. As I mentioned before, demons usually get to make players scared. Most demons choose 2 players, so that basically increases their pool, or the pool of people we can choose. The Dreamstalker, however, also learns which alive players are scared, so they can spread fear if they want more effectively, or they can figure out if there's an abomination somewhere, or they can, focus like, oh, I've chosen this player last night, but they didn't become scared. Maybe they're the final girl, or maybe they're sat next to an officer and I need to make the officer scared. Your guess. You can use it whatever way you want. And finally, the second part of their ability. Scared good players always die when nominated by a good player. Usually it's a might. If the Dreamstalker's in play, you're just gonna see people drop dead everywhere. I've had games where the good team, even though there was a Dreamstalker in play, I think there was like one nomination where a good player actually killed a scared player. They actually kind of danced around the scared somehow. It's very interesting. I've not seen it be super insane effectively, but we'll see. Maybe we'll put a Dreamstalker in play. Maybe we'll get a lot of kills. It's definitely, in my opinion, probably like one of the more interesting demons on the script. Then we've got Bloody Mary. Don't say that 3 times in front of a mirror. Each night, choose a player. They become scared. Then, if you weren't nominated yesterday, or a good player said Bloody Mary, choose another player. They die. But no other player can die from being scared that night. So basically, Bloody Mary is, I think, the only demon who only gets to choose one player each night to become scared. However, Bloody Mary gets to kill directly. If a player during the day says Bloody Mary, obviously that's a reference to um, the how do you say it? I know the word. Urban legend. That's the word. Uh, that's the urban legend of Bloody Mary. If a player says that, then the Bloody Mary gets to direct a kill at a player. Or alternatively, if the Bloody Mary wasn't nominated during the day, then they get to kill someone as well. So yeah, you obviously the good team can kinda choose to try and figure out if Bloody Mary's in play or not, and if they nominated them or not. It's a two-edged sword in a way. But to make sure that it doesn't become painfully obvious, only the player who died, who got chosen by Bloody Mary to kill, will actually die. So there will not be any other scared players, even if there was no execution that night or that day. Then we've got the mask, which is the reason why the trick-or-treater and the babysitter exist. The mask, probably one of the strongest demons on this one. Each night, choose 2 players. They become scared, then a scared player might become calm. You can only die if all your minions are dead. The first time you're executed, a minion dies at night. But no other player can die due to being scared that night. I should have said that night, but whatever. So yeah, the mask can only die if all the minions are dead. So if you try and kill the mask before the minions are dead, the mask isn't gonna die. The first time that happens, a minion's gonna die at night, the following night, obviously. And yeah, if you've got all the minions dead, then you could try execute the mask. The mask is very, very powerful because you'll need to find the minions, even if you know who the mask is. You need to kill those minions first. Other than that, they just choose 2 players as every other demon. However, we also get the choice of making a player calm to maybe balance things out, maybe make sure the Scarecrow can actually becomes calm, so they can choose their ability gets to act, and then another player becomes calm, and so on. Yeah, that's also the reason there's a -1 outsider, because otherwise the mask is very, very scary for the good team. They're still very scary, but they are not nearly as powerful as they were when they were first introduced into the game. Finally, we've got the mini legion, the zombie. You do not learn your evil team, and each zombie learns 2 bluffs. Each night, all zombies wake individually to choose a player. If more than half choose the same player, and most players will be good, they become an evil zombie. Otherwise, all chosen players become scared. All minions are zombies. Zombie is very interesting. I really like the zombie. It's basically a mini legion where you turn over the town. So yeah, zombies don't learn each other. They don't get to communicate who they want to pick. They all get to learn 2 bluffs instead of 3, so they can't just like figure out who their fellow zombies are by knowing which bluffs they've received. However, zombies will always wake all the zombies, will mark down the players, and if more than half the zombies chose the same player, that player will become an evil zombie. And they will wake every following night as well. If there was not a majority pick, then all the chosen players will just become scared and the night will continue as normal. If there's one question that's frequently asked, which is, do dead zombies still wake? And I've at some point decided to rule that yes, because it's the zombies ability which says all zombies wake individually. Yes, all dead zombies would wake as well. Otherwise, you would have one zombie alive, and they would always turn someone, because obviously they will be the majority by themselves. So yeah, dead zombies wake as well, and they also get to choose a player. One important part here is and most players will be good. That's an important thing here. That's to make sure we don't just get an evil majority, because that's just not fun. So there will always have to be, most players will always have to be good, so there can't be an evil majority. Obviously, it's still going to become very, very difficult for the good team as soon as zombies start multiplying left and right. Um, but they might also have a final girl in their team who might make things easier for them, as long as they don't become zombified. So yeah, that's all the demons as well. We've also got a Night Order, which obviously we're not going to go into. Uh, this is my script, Halloween in Ravenswood Bluff. We're gonna do a little bit of a break. We're gonna try and start as quickly as possible because I didn't expect this to go as long as it did. Um, I need to drink something because I I talked a lot here.